Let's dive into one of the absolute strangest and most important chapters in all of literary history. Seriously. It's a wild story about a brilliant idea, a very confused friend, and a last-minute decision that basically redefined how we think about creativity itself.
So here's the mystery we're going to unpack. Imagine an author, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, setting out to write the philosophical heart of his life's work. But the chapter that actually got published is famous not for what's in it, but for the ghost of what he was forced to cut out.
All right, we're talking about Chapter 13 of his legendary book, BIOGRAPHIA Literaria. This was supposed to be the main event, his grand theory on what human creativity really is. But for the people who first read it, well, it was kind of a nightmare.
This was the big promise. Coleridge wanted to define what he called the essemplastic power. It's a word he made up, and it basically means the power to shape many different things into one unified whole. He was trying to explain the very engine of artistic genius.
One of the first people to read a draft of this chapter described the experience perfectly. He said it felt like being left alone in a massive, dark, Gothic cathedral on a windy, moonlit night. You can feel that there's something huge and awe-inspiring all around you, but you can't quite see it clearly. It's all just shadows and echoes.
So why was it so confusing? Well, Coleridge was way deep in the weeds of some really complex German philosophy. He was trying to build this whole system from the ground up to explain how our minds perceive the world and then shape it into reality. It was incredibly ambitious, but for the average reader, it was just totally impenetrable.
Now, you'd think an author would just publish his big idea, right? No matter how tough it is. But that is not what happened here. Not even close. The entire direction of this chapter, and you could argue literary history, was about to get rerouted, all because of a single letter.
Just as he's about to send the manuscript off to the printer, Coleridge gets a letter from a trusted friend who'd read the draft, and that letter changed absolutely everything.
The feedback was, let's just say, it was brutally honest. His friend basically wrote that after reading the chapter, he wasn't enlightened, he was just completely disoriented. He felt like he was standing on his head. The whole argument was so confusing, it just didn't compute.
And then his friend hit the nail on the head with this line. He said the chapter was overstuffed with all these huge ideas, but it was missing the links to connect them. It was like a tower of philosophical bricks with no mortar to hold any of it together.
To really make his point, the friend used this fantastic analogy. He said the chapter was like this famous book that was supposed to be about tar water, but somehow it starts with tar and ends up talking about the Holy Trinity. It was sprawling, it was unfocused, and it was not what the reader signed up for.
So in the end, the friend's advice wasn't, oh, maybe you could edit this part or clarify that. Nope. It was way more drastic. He said, cut the entire thing. Save it for another book, he urged, before it sinks this one.
And what's amazing is Coleridge listened. He pulled the whole thing, 100 pages, the philosophical core of his book, gone. And in its place, he wrote just a few short, powerful paragraphs that distilled the absolute essence of his idea. And this is where he gives us his legendary distinction between the two types of imagination.
First, he defines the primary imagination. Now, this isn't about art. This is about just being a human. It's that unconscious, automatic power our minds use to take in all the raw data from our senses and organize it into the world we actually perceive. It's like a little spark of divine creation happening in our brains every single moment of every day.
And then you have the secondary imagination. This is the one we think of as artistic imagination. It's a conscious, willed act. It takes the world that we all perceive, and as he puts it, it dissolves, diffuses, and dissipates it. It breaks it down in order to recreate something totally new and unified. I mean, just look at these words. They aren't gentle words. This isn't just rearranging the furniture. This is a process of breaking reality down to its core components and building it back up as art. It's truly transformative.
But to really understand just how powerful imagination is, Coleridge does something brilliant. He defines what it's not by introducing us to its weaker, less creative cousin, fancy.
Fancy, Coleridge says, is basically just memory playing around without rules. It takes existing, whole images, what he calls fixities and definites, and just shuffles them. It can stick things together in new combinations, sure, but it can't melt them down and forge something genuinely new. It's combination, not creation.
And that brings us right to the heart of it all. This is the core distinction. Imagination is a vital, living power that recreates reality. Fancy, on the other hand, is just a mechanical process that reassembles it. Imagination builds a new world.
Fancy just redecorates the old one.
So why does any of this matter? Why are we still talking about this idea salvaged from a deleted chapter over 200 years later? Well, because it completely changed the way we understand what art is and what artists do.
You have to understand, this was a revolutionary shift. Before Coleridge, artists were often seen as just skilled imitators of nature. He completely reframed them as true creators, like a lowercase c creator. He gave us a new vocabulary to separate real genius, that vital, unifying power, from just clever arrangement. This one idea became a cornerstone of the Romantic movement and so much of modern art theory that followed.
And the most remarkable part of this whole story is that we only have this beautifully clear, powerful idea because a friend was brave enough to just say, "I don't get it. This is a mess. You need to start over." That sprawling Gothic cathedral of a chapter was torn down, and in its place, this perfect, elegant chapel was built.
And that leaves all of us with a final question to think about in our own work, in our own lives. When we make something new, whether it's a piece of art, a presentation for work, or even just a solution to a problem, are we truly dissolving and recreating, or are we just rearranging the fixed pieces we already know? Are we using imagination, or are we just using fancy?